next step is to put in the rail buttons, and I'm using these flange style mounts. So these are 15 buttons. You drill a 1/4 inch hole and put in this flange mounting, and then put this on there, and then the screw on top. It works very nicely. I'm gonna put one down here between the fins, but above my aft center ring, and then one down there at the top of this 6-inch booster section. I can't go any higher because the rocket becomes a 4-inch rocket at that point. So there's my 1/4 inch hole, and now I've got this piece of angle iron that I use to line things up. And so I'm gonna draw a pencil line that's gonna go from there and try to get it centered on the other side. So the rail buttons are now in place. There's the aft end rail button, and there's the forward end rail button. And then I'll go ahead and slide this center ring in there and epoxy it in. And I forgot that I had already put the screw in and JB welded it in, so I had to actually file down the inner diameter a little bit of that final center ring, but I don't think it'll affect the strength of the center ring significantly. And then I'll put the airfoil on. And so now at this point, I've managed to get this 5/16 bolt through all the way through the 6-inch and the 4-inch portion. And when I wind it down, you can see that the weld nut is going to be flush with the outside of the 6-inch airframe. And then I'll have this. The trick though is going to be to line that up with this airfoil, and so I've carefully marked that. I got to put some holes on there. Even to get these two holes lined up, I had to carefully align it with a piece of angle iron lined up with the fin slots, and so that worked out nicely as a frame of reference. And so the screw has gone through very effectively, and that screw is from the amazing McMaster car, who always provides you very quickly exactly what you order, even a very precise weld nut size like I wanted here, exactly 6 inches, exactly 5/16 with the screw that fit that weld nut. So I think that's going to work if I can get the screws to line up, the holes to line up properly in this airfoil. What I have to do now is take this out, now that I know it fits, do my epoxy work, slide this final centering ring down in there, epoxy it in, then slide this airfoil on top, epoxy it in, and then hope that the holes on this line up properly so that I can reinsert that bolt that transverses the whole rocket. And the whole point of it is that I feel better having a bolt that goes all the way through. It's not going to support against any possible catastrophic failure, but it certainly increases the chances that everything will stay together. And then here's the holes I've drilled for the airfoil to match where this long screw is going to go through. I'm using 3/8 inch drill bit for this, even though the screw is actually 5/16, but I'm going to need a good amount of play since it has to go all the way through the airframe. And also because the weld nut is 3/8, so that needs to go in like this, and then this connects across, hopefully, if everything fits. Well, that turned out surprisingly well. The parts fit together well. I don't know about you, but for me, this hobby rocketry is challenging, and so especially when I try something unusual like this project, so I'm always surprised when things actually work out. But the pieces fit together as planned. I was able to find the holes all the way through the 6-inch tube, then through the airfoil, then through the 4-inch tube, and then out the other side where I have this weld nut, and I filled the excess area with epoxy. They lined up. I had to touch it up a little bit with the drill, the hole at the last second, but it fit okay. And now I'm just in the process of cleaning off any excess epoxy. I've managed to kind of ruin the sheen on this paint because of wiping it with rubbing alcohol to get the epoxy off. But that's okay, because later I'll clear coat it, which should get the shine back, or in the worst case, I can add more of that green paint.
But the main thing is I wanted to get these pieces together smoothly. So I have the upper centering ring in there, epoxied in, and then the airfoil on top of that, and then the bolt through those. And doing all this quickly because epoxy has limited drying time. Rock epoxies, I think it's 45-minute set time, but you're really down to like 20 minutes or so until it starts to get pretty firm where it's harder to move things around. I guess 30-40 minutes time. So it gets the adrenaline going, but that can be a good thing. And it looks like we're in good shape, so I'm just going to spend a little time wiping this down to make sure there's no epoxy drips. And so now for the first time I can actually put the whole thing together. So I don't know if you remember from the first video in this series, but the top part of this rocket is from my Mad Cow Super DX3 that had a K-toe on motor burn through, and I didn't feel like making another 4-inch booster for that. And so I decided to do a 6-inch booster just for a change, to do something kind of different and challenging. And so that 6-inch booster with a 4-inch transition is now ready to dry fit. So those fins aren't really in, it's just a dry fit, but the rest of it is all epoxied, and I'm ready to work on the fins. That'll be the last stage.